Hello! Today I've got a do-it-yourself tutorial for you, which isn't something I do very often because quite honestly I'm not very good at do-it-yourself stuff. I'm not a very patient person, so yeah, don't expect anything completely really complicated that's gonna take ages to finish because I won't have the patience for it myself. So yeah. Basically this is just going to be a quick and easy way to make some Christmas decorations or just winter decorations yourself, because it's always, you know, fun to just make some stuff yourself, I guess. Just makes it more special, I think. And all you're gonna need is origami paper and maybe some glitter or whatever you want to use. So I have some origami paper here and some more origami paper. I've gathered a lot of it throughout the years and I barely use it. But yeah, I'm mainly gonna use colors like blue and because, you know, like snow and cold. And red and green because of Christmas, and yeah, you can just use any colors you want. I'm not going to do very complicated origami things because, like I said, I'm not like a very patient person, and so I don't really do all the many do-it-yourself things, so I'm not extremely good at them myself. But I'm just going to show you easy stuff that's like, you know, like I said, easy to create. They're just basically things that I learned from books. Some things I learned at primary school, which is like 15 years ago, and now I feel old. But yeah, just those sort of easy stuff. So yeah, I hope you'll like it. Let's get started. Okay, the first thing I'm going to show you is either a star or a ice crystal, depending on what color you use. I'm going to use yellow, so it's going to be a star this time, but I just filmed the Dutch version with an ice crystal in blue, so that's what it's going to look like. And it's actually pretty easy. You're just going to start out with dusting any dust off the paper. Oops. But you're just going to start out with folding it in half. One downside of origami is that it's pretty bad for your nails. But yeah, I mean, I always use my nails to like really flatten the paper. And then fold it over again. Just so we have some lines to follow for the next part. You could try to do it without this step, but you know, it's going to be very difficult to actually get it to look even. While as this, you have the lines that you're going to follow now to fold the tips to the center. And don't be too worried if they don't, you know, completely line up perfectly. I mean, personally, I never get it to line up perfectly. I guess I just don't do origami often enough to accomplish that. But for the end result, it's just supposed to look fun. Doesn't have to be completely perfect, at least in my opinion. I'm usually a very perfectionistic person. But, you know, with things like, well, with things like do-it-yourself products, I think they should mainly be fun. So, yeah. And then I'm just folding it like this with the folds to the inner part. And then you have this. And then folding it in half again and just flattening it like this. Pretty difficult to explain, but yeah, you can see what I'm doing. And then do the exact same thing on the other side. And one thing is also to keep in mind that with thicker paper, it's probably going to look a little bit like, yeah, not really prettier, but more sturdy, I guess. While with thinner paper it's easier to fold, but it's also easier to tear the paper, so be careful with that. This paper is pretty thin, the blue paper I have is thicker. So yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. Then the next part is to just fold the top flaps to the center. So, you know, just line them up with the folds that's already there. And then just bend a little part here. Then fold it back open, and the next part is going to take a little bit of trying if this is the first time you're doing it. I mean, the first time I tried it I kept tearing the paper, but you just hold it here, push it to this side and then fold this inwards. So you're left with this result. And then just pull a little bit until it's, you know, actually properly folded. And then just do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to start now with folding the bottom flap because I know where it's going to be now. And you're really just making these folds to make it easier to just flap it over. So they'll just go into the right place, in the right position immediately. And again at this part, you know, like I really want the corners to be, you know, good looking. But if you're using thin paper, be sure not to accidentally tear the paper. And yeah, then you're left with this. And then I'm going to fold these upwards. And at this point you're really almost done. Then you're left with this effect. And just grab the two points here. And you're done. The next one is going to be slightly more difficult. It's going to be this. But then obviously in different colors. For the center part you can use I use a little bead. You can use just a circle of paper or, you know, nothing. I mean, you don't have to put something in the center. I just think it just makes it more sturdy, I guess. It makes the folds fall down better, but you'll see what I mean later. But yeah, this is basically what it's going to be. And for this I'm going to use two different colors of paper, just because I think it looks cute when it has two different colors. Gives more definition to it. So I'm using dark blue and red because I think that's Christmas-like enough. Or at least winter-like enough. And I'm just trying to make sure they line up really well and just fold them both in half. And make sure that you put the color that you want to have inside on the inside part, that you actually put that in the center or in the inside part of this fold. Because then it's going to end up where you want it to be. Also, then I'm just going to fold this to the center as well. Also, when doing this, try to make sure if you use two different colors of paper, so you know, two sheets at once, do make sure not to use too thick paper, very thick paper. I'm using really thin paper now because, well, otherwise it'd be so thick that it'd be almost impossible to fold it. Which would just make this whole thing more difficult, which is though not what I want. So yeah. And then just fold that in the center again. What I like about this thing, by the way, is that it looks way more complicated than it actually is. Like, it seems complicated when you do it for the first time, at least in my experience. But once you get the hang of it, it's just really, really easy. And then just folding this to the center. Basically the first part is a lot of folding and then just folding it back. But you're gonna need those folds later to make it go smoothly in the shape you want it to go in. And then you're left with this. And then I'm just going to fold it in this direction. And the one thing that needs to line up perfectly is this part. That is just really ends at the edge of it. Because you really want it to be in the center. And then I'm also going to fold it to the other direction. And then I'm just going to take this part, fold it open. And just follow those diagonal lines that we just made. And just fold it like this. And do the same thing, of course, on the other side. A lot of this origami piece is just repeating yourself, basically. Also, fun fact, if you fold it like this, then you have a little boat. But yeah, that's not what we're making right now. So I'm just going to keep it like this, then fold the edges here to the other side, so you know it goes like this, and then open them up and flatten them so we get little squares. And just do that to all 4 sides of it. And there. Also, what I'll show you after this, if you make 6 of these, then you can just glue them together with these parts and just create a bigger ornament, which is again what I'll show you later. But yeah, that's just another fun thing, although they look pretty cute on their own already, I think. So yeah, when you're at this point, basically most of the work is already done. All that's left to do is to fold the outer parts of the squares to the center. Like this. And then open them up. Flatten them. And that's basically it. And then just do the exact same thing to all the other squares. Or all the other edges of the squares. Okay, at this point we're left with this, and then it's just time to fold back the corners. And do make sure the little points here don't get folded to the back. And you'll see this does sort of tighten it up so that it lays flatter. And then after that it's time to glue the center part to it. For that you could use different sorts of glue. I'm using a glue gun just because, you know, it's really sturdy. But you can just use whatever glue you have lying around that's strong enough. I mean, you know, it's just gluing a bead or whatever you're using to paper, so it doesn't have to be massively strong or anything. If you're using a glue gun, do make sure to not keep your hands at the center of the back, because paper isn't very good at holding back heat. And, you know, no one wants to burn their hands. So just put the glue on there, then carefully put the bead on. Also, if you're using a little tiny circle of paper to put in the center, of course use a pencil or something to push it on there. Because glue gun glue is warm, obviously. And yeah, then just hold it there for 30 seconds. I mean, I haven't been checking the time actually, so I have no idea how long I've been holding it for. But generally, as soon as it's like cooled down enough that you can touch it carefully without burning your hands, then it's probably cold enough to let it go. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the basic shape. And once you have 6 little medallion things, you can go glue them together. I already started here. And yeah, basically you're just going to start with one of them. And use whatever glue you're going to use. I'm using my glue gun. And just glue all the corners together. If you're also using a glue gun, be careful. Obviously, glue gun glue is hot. I already said it like 5 times. Also, if you're using a glue stick, do be careful that it is one that's like, you know, actually good. Because I used to use a glue stick. Like one time I tried this with a glue stick that sort of dried and then crumbled, so everything just fell apart again, which isn't very nice. So I had to end up using like half the glue stick just to do this, which doesn't really make the effect any better because, you know, obviously it's not going to end up looking very good. So yeah, do keep that in mind. And just wait for 30 seconds for the glue to dry if you're using a glue gun. And just move on like that. I always like to make the 2 sides separately, one before, like there. 2 separate sides before putting them together, yep. Before turning them into one. Just because I feel like it's easier to handle them. And yeah, the biggest task about this part is actually just waiting for the glue to dry. You can do it, by the way, I also used Scotch tape once to do this, which also works. Just gotta make sure to really have it, like, again, good quality glue. Because, you know, it's just paper, but, well, this part isn't actually very difficult for the glue yet. But the part we're moving on to now is actually, you know, pretty much a task for the glue. Because you're going to fold it in this shape. And the glue obviously needs to be strong enough to keep it together. And now both projects are pretty much done. One thing about the ornament thing. Keep in mind it's supposed to end up looking sort of like a dice. So yeah, basically the first time I tried this I actually glued it, you know, wrongly, like multiple times. There's supposed to be little triangles between all the shapes. So yeah, just keep trying until it works basically. And then I just poked a hole in it with a needle and put a string to it. It's actually a see-through string, so I don't know if you can actually see it. But then you can just hang it somewhere. And I basically did the same thing to the stars. I made different ones in different colors. And also tied them all together with a string. Just poked holes in them with a little needle. And then those can hang as well. So yeah, that's it. So that was today's tutorial, do-it-yourself tutorial. I'm not sure if I'm going to do more do-it-yourself tutorials. Because as I said, I'm not extremely good at it. But it's always fun to just, you know, do some do-it-yourself stuff when you're bored on a Sunday afternoon. Like I was when I filmed this. So yeah, I hope it was fun to watch. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time. Bye! Hello! It's been quite some time since I last did a tech video, but I'm still arguing with my bangs sometimes. Yeah. Point is,